Alright you guys, I've been getting asked a lot why I use paper for my snakes and also what type of paper I use. So I figured I'd just make a video explaining, why I use it and what kind and how I use it, and just everything that goes along with it. So what do you guys say we jump right into that? Alright you guys, so to start off, this is the paper I use. Now, it doesn't have to be this stuff. This is the Easy Mask Builder's paper. I get this stuff at Home Depot. It's $12.97 a roll. It's 36 inches by 140 feet. The reason I like this paper, let me set this down for a moment, is just because of how really how thick it is and how much it absorbs, and on top of that it doesn't have inks like your normal newspaper print or whatever kind of other paper people are using out there. I do see a lot of the guys using newspaper. Nothing wrong with that. I just don't personally like it, and I find this paper to be a lot more absorbent. So actually this girl here that's being a little brat right now, she just took a huge piss in her cage. But I want you guys to see this. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab this camera. Let's take a look at this girl. I want you guys to see what it looks like when, a large 12-foot berm goes to the bathroom on this paper. So let's take a look at that. All right, you guys, so if we take a look in this cage here, if you guys can see that, that is all sorts of wet, right? So sorry it's a bit dark in there, but what I want you guys to see is really look, that might be soaked, but I'm gonna roll all of this paper up in one chunk and toss it out. So what do you guys say we get this girl cleaned and then we'll move on? Usually just put them in a big tub or let them cruise the room, but because we've got the camera out today, I know she'll be knocking that over. We are just going to put her in this tub while we clean out her enclosure. So remember, always use your hooks, guys, when you're handling big snakes. As much as I trust these animals, they still do have a feeding response, and you need to be a responsible keeper. So here you go, sweetie. Hi. But see, now she knows it's not feeding time. I can go ahead and just pull her right out. And we will get her right on in here. She's probably not going to go too easily, but There we go, sweetheart. This girl should be shedding soon, too. Oh, you're fine, sweetie. There we go. Watch your head. And whoop. Just like that, she's in here. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at this paper, guys, and I want you to see how this rolls up. So let's get her out of the way. Put this house in because she's been wanting to push. Didn't really help much. She's also a little bit big for it, but she has been laying on top, so figured I'd leave it in there. All right, let's take a look at this. So hopefully you guys can get a better view now that the glass isn't in the way. A little urate. This isn't a giant piss, but pretty typical. See the rest of the paper, nice and dry. So literally, guys, this is all you gotta do. Let's fold this up. Hopefully you guys can see all right in there. See, the paper's a little wet, but it's not ripping apart, staying together. We'll go ahead and just pull that this way. And just roll that sucker up. That's simple, guys. One-handed. Okay? Obviously you're gonna have a little wet spot on the PVC. Let's toss this and we'll take care of that right away. Just like that, guys, cage is already wiped down and done. That took me, what, 2 minutes? Super easy, super convenient, and the cage is completely clean. What I'm gonna do now is grab some F10 right here, and we're gonna go ahead and give this a light spray down and just let it sit for about 10 minutes. And just like that, guys, the cage is clean. So that's one of the reasons I like the paper. It's super convenient, super fast and easy to clean. And let's check this out. All right, you guys, so why paper? I'll start off with 3 main points and then we can touch on them a little bit. Cost effectiveness, cleanliness, and overall observation. So let's start off with cost effectiveness. Now, to do a large enclosure like the 8 foot the berms are in over here, that's gonna be, you could get away with 1 block of your, normal, I don't wanna name any certain brand, but you can get, 1 block, a ReptiChip, Coco block, whatever, would do about an 8 foot cage, at least to have, a good layer going on through there. Sometimes about 1.5 blocks to have a really nice substrate layer going on. Obviously for the ball python racks and stuff inside the racks, that is going to be much less. 1 block will go a long ways. But as far as those cages, I've done the math. To get each one of those 8 foot cages done is like $1, less than $1. Maybe just over $1 if we're talking about paper towel, paper itself, and cleaning products such as chlorhexidine or F10. So, I mean, that's super cost effectiveness. To be able to get a cage done in less than 10 minutes and be right around $1, that's very cost effective. And with the racks, I mean, it's literally cents. It cost me cents to do the rack. One of those rolls will cut down in width to the width of, whether it's the ARS tubs or whatnot. And you can get multiple 140 foot rolls out of that one main roll. And with that, I just chop it down with the chop saw, and then I set up a table and I cut it to size. So overall, it's very cost effective. And then as far as cleanliness, now this is going to be arguable for both sides of the fence here, okay? So a lot of guys with the ReptiChip, or even when I used it, or Coco blocks, or whatever Coco substrate you're using, all right? Let's not get caught up on a brand here. But they'll do what you call spot cleaning, and then they'll do full cleans, every shed cycle, or, whatever their routine and specific may be. Now, with the ball pythons, I don't see so much of an issue with that because, they don't take, typically don't take huge, pisses or anything like that. And it's very easy to clean it up. Now, I'm going to go ahead and roll some footage here of, right off to the side. We'll throw it over here somewhere. This is what dirty tubs look like on the paper. Now, I'm not saying they can't get soaked. They sometimes can get soaked, but this is just me pulling open some random tubs and boom, we see urate, we see poop. But I want you to notice that that paper was probably wet. It's now dry. This paper is very absorbent, and it's, sure you have to cut it to size yourself, which may be a pain in the butt, but, just paper in general, liners, whatever. This paper I use is very absorbent, so I really like that factor. And this is where it leads in, is I can roll that right up and I can toss it away, take a paper towel, spray it down, wipe that tub clean. I'm done within a matter of a minute, Maybe if you got to scrape some urates, it might take you 2 minutes a tub. Usually what I do is I keep empty tubs on hand, so I will move those animals into a fresh, already clean tub. I'll take all those tubs, I'll line them up. If you guys have seen my IG videos or anything like that, you guys know I'll spray them all down with that sprayer. I'll let them sit for a few minutes just to let that chlorhexidine do its job. I'll wipe it out, I'll spray them with F10. I'll lean them up against the cages here, let them dry, and then I'll repeat the process as needed. Now this works because I have a smaller collection. It's not huge. huge. We do have, you know, a decent amount of animals, but we're not huge by any means. And I'm able to allow that time, so I do it that way, right? But if you're using one of the Coco brands and you go pick up that poop and you toss it out, sure, and you wipe it, you know, with a clean rag, here's my problem with it. Is if that snake, let's say it took a huge piss, right? I mean, let's be real, they're animals. They're gonna have to poop and pee, okay? It's part of life. Let's say that animal takes a huge piss and now half of the bottom of the tub is soaked in their urine. So even if you grab that poop in the corner, well, they peed right next to it and that's soaked all up underneath that Repti-Chip. So even if you take out a good scoop of Repti-Chip, wipe out that area, or Coco, whatever, guys, you still have that urine soaked into your Coco underneath. Now, you know, as long as you're changing this regularly, that's not a problem, but I do see a lot of people run into mold issues and stuff like that, which can't be good for the snake's respiratory system. On top of that, I just feel like it's a breeding ground for, you know, things to go wrong, basically. You know, having urine sit under there and soak into your substrate, I don't know. This is just my personal opinion on the matter, right? Lots of people, like I said, use it and they do perfectly fine. So this isn't a Coco versus paper battle, okay? Both of them are effective. There's other sources of substrate, like here in my CB or Freedom Breeder 70 series rack. I am using these gem white shavings. I'm giving it a try on some of my breeder females, seeing how I like it. So far, it's super easy to clean. I do like that it kind of changes color when they pee on it. So you can see that and you can go clean it up, and anything that got the pee on it is gonna be that slightly off color. So you're able to really see it and clean all of it up. And I kind of like that. And in my area, I don't really have humidity issues too badly. You know, maybe during the winter when we're running the heater a lot. But even then, you know, it's been cold here, we've been running the heater, and I've had perfectly fine sheds. I'm able to clean them up and it's easy to keep sanitary. So, I mean, there's a million ways to do things. I just like the paper because it's, like I said, it's very cost effective. It's very efficient as far as cleaning them out, swapping them out, done deal, boom, 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 and I get to spend more time with the animals that way. And then, you know, with the cleanliness, like I said, it's just, you can do that whole tub real quick and get it perfectly clean. And I do get why people use Substrate, and that's great. Like I said, I still do use Substrate on some of them. I also use Substrate on my colubrids and, you know, some of the other species we have here, obviously, that do have to have Substrate, like my monitor and other animals, you know, that we keep. But that leads me on to my last point, is observation, right? If one of my animals has a weird stool movement or a weird, you know, urinary issue, I'm really able to notice this right away. You know, I can catch it real quick. If they're having diarrhea, any sort of mucus issues or respiratory issues, I'm gonna notice this right away. They're not going to have, you know, that Coco to really hide that those issues, or bugs for that matter, right? And I've ran into issues using Coco in the past and having mites travel in, and this is without anybody in or out of my collection, me going to no other collections in or out, and on top of that, no, you know, no pet store trips or anything like that. We're pretty self-sufficient around here, besides, you know, maybe our trips to the feed store to get rodent food, and even then they're throwing it in the back and there's no contact, and you know, but either way, I ran into issues. I don't think it was the Coco. Let's get that straight out. I do not believe the Coco was the problem. What I believe is maybe somebody else went and picked up Coco and they had mites and they didn't say anything about it, and then I go pick up Coco, and now because, you know, Joe Schmo or whatever came and he picked up his before me and he had mites, they traveled with him, they got onto the blocks of Coco, and then, you know, a few traveled home with me. I get all, you know, excited, I'm breaking down the Coco, I throw it in, clean the animals that need cleaned, etc. And then boom, you have mites a week later. You know, and there's plenty of ways to go around this. I might switch back to Coco at some point, you know, and use a preventative method such as freezing it or treating it with permethrin or prevenamite, etc. But that's just my overall, I do like the observation. That's why even if I do switch back to using Substrate for my adult ball pythons or other species, I will still keep all of my babies on paper because I'm able to really observe them. I can make sure they are 100% healthy before they go out or move up into my collection as holdbacks, etc. And that's just a few of the reasons I really like the paper personally. And then especially as far as the big snakes go, when you're pulling out a 12+ foot berm or retic or whatever, if you guys have any large snakes, you're gonna know they'll scoop out Substrate like a fucking snowplow, and it's gonna be all over the floor. If you're like me, you don't wanna scoop that up and put it right back into your cage, so you're gonna toss it and have to replace it. Well, I handle my animals quite often, so if I'm pulling them out almost every day that they're not digesting, etc., or breeding whatever, I'm gonna have to replace half that cage every other day. That's a lot of money adding up. With paper, I don't have that issue whatsoever. They're not scooping their paper out on the floor, and I mean, so what if they did it? Roll it out, cut it, put it back in there, super easy. I just really think it's efficient, more so especially for the larger snakes. And again, this also depends on your area. What works for me may not work for you. If you're not able to be in your room and check on every single one of your animals on paper every day, maybe paper isn't the right choice for you. Maybe you want that barrier so your animal can get up on top of their, urine or whatever. But like I said, or like I showed you, this paper does dry very quickly. They're not sitting on their piss. I'm not saying it never gets wet, but they're not sitting on their piss for hours on end until you check the cage the next day, etc. Just be diligent. Now, also people point out that paper is a noticeable smell, and you can smell, the paper difference between when you go into a facility that uses cocoa substrate or whatever substrate versus paper. Now, I will say, when the big snakes go to the bathroom, you walk in here and smell it, but you're gonna smell that either fucking way. I'm telling you that. I've done both, and I can tell you from experience, you're gonna smell it either way. I just think it's much more efficient to clean up the paper in my situation for me to get all that done. A little bit of recycling going down, whatever. Your recycle container might be full, but that's just what I find most efficient. So this is kind of, just why I prefer to use paper for the majority of my collection. Not saying I'll never switch, but for now I'm going to continue to use paper. I have really good success with it. Animals shed fine, eat fine, drink fine, are perfectly healthy. They're breeding fine. So, it works for me. It might work for you. If it doesn't, maybe try something else. If you live in a really dry environment, maybe you really need that humidity added from the cocoa. Or if you live in an extremely humid environment, maybe paper works for you, or maybe one of the wood shaving type substrates you can use, whether that's kiln dried aspen or white shavings, as long as it's not a toxic wood to whatever sort of reptile you're keeping on it. Just throwing it out there, what works for me may not work for everybody else, so don't take this as this is the way you have to do it. There's 100 ways you can keep these animals healthily and happily. This is just what works for me, and I wanted to share it with you guys. If you haven't already, make sure you guys go over to www.thesnakenerd.com. Check it out. You'll find links to all of our available snakes, Instagram accounts, Facebook accounts, YouTube, but you guys are already here. You'll find merch, both for D's Balls and Exotics, and the Snake Nerd Lounge, the live stream we typically do every Saturday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. And if you guys haven't, do me a favor, please. Smash that like button. It really helps us with the YouTube algorithm. Hit that subscribe button and the bell next to it so you get notified when we upload more content. And I will catch you guys next week.